The Oakland Athletics have completed their final season in Oakland, and unsurprisingly, it was fairly lackluster. However, with the young talent on the roster, it could be a fun team to rebuild for 2025. This is all a part of my Rebuilding October series, where I rebuild a new team every day across the month of October for the 2025 season. So be sure to check out my most recent rebuild of the Los Angeles Angels. But with that being said, let's go ahead and save the Sacramento Athletics. Despite their near last place finish, the Athletics have an exciting group of positional talent with a surprisingly decent bullpen headlined by Mason Miller. Unfortunately, the team is extremely reluctant to invest in the team, which makes this rebuild quite a bit harder. But this is a team with some development, and starting pitching could make some noise in the regular season. In this video, I decided to make a semi realistic approach just because signing no one isn't very exciting. However, before we can look at who the Athletics need to sign, we need to look at who they're losing. Ross Stripling is the biggest name leaving in free agency, and it might honestly be a blessing for Athletic fans. Stripling has really struggled in his stint in Oakland, posting a near 6 ERA, bouncing between a starter and reliever role. He struck out a crazy low amount of batters while giving up a career high in hits per 9 innings. Safe to say, this low risk, high upside trade has not panned out for the Athletics, and it's a fairly similar story for Alex Wood, an unrestricted free agent who the Athletics had signed to a 1 year deal prior to the 2024 season. Wood had posted a 5.26 ERA across 9 starts before needing season ending surgery. Once again, it was a fairly low risk, high reward sort of signing for the Athletics when they made the move, but they pretty much got the worst end of the deal. Another former Giant that is set to hit the market is Scott Alexander from the bullpen. Unlike the other veterans, Alex has had a really nice 2024 season, and it would be unjust if the Athletics didn't try their best to re sign him. The lefty has posted a mid 2 ERA in around 40 innings pitched and has played a key role for the Athletics. It is a vital thing the Athletics re sign the Southpaw. Then there is another Southpaw who you might recognize from my Rockies rebuild, and it is TJ McFarland. To keep consistency, McFarland will leave in free agency despite posting a decent season in Oakland. While his near 4 ERA isn't the most impressive thing in the world, the amount of games he has played speaks volume. While it would be sad to see him go, it isn't like he is irreplaceable. And the final impending free agent is Trevor Gott, who should not re-sign with the Athletics. Gott unfortunately had to get Tommy John surgery back in April, and whether he'll be back at full strength by beginning of the season is up for debate, and it's just not worth it for the Athletics to take a risk on a reliever when they're trying to turn the corner with a young roster. Even younger players that could join the roster in 2025 would have to start with Nick Kurtz, the Athletics' first round pick from the 2024 MLB draft. The projections have him pegged more as a 2026 ETA. However, if he keeps raking like he was in AA, it would be hard to keep him out of the majors. The only difficulty would be the position, seeing the Major League roster already has Soderstrom at first base and Rooker at DH, which makes finding him a spot a little difficult, but not impossible. If Kurtz can make the roster at some point, you would imagine Rooker would be forced into the field with Soderstrom at DH and Kurtz manning first base with his solid defensive ability. Another name to keep an eye on is Luis Morales, currently in High A. Morales was once a top international pitching prospect in the 2023 international signing period, and with a big year, could see himself into the majors later in the season. Morales has 4 main pitches with a plus fastball, curveball, slider, and changeup, and all of them project to be at least average offerings. It would require a big rise from the right handed pitcher, but it isn't impossible considering the team's weakness at the position. Another righty to keep in the memory bank is Mason Barnett, who the Athletics received in the Paul Blackburn trade with the Kansas City Royals. During his 2024 time with the Royals, he wasn't quite living up to the pedigree he got from winning Royals Minor League Pitcher of the Year in 2023. However, over his starts with the AA affiliate of the Athletics, he has seemed to regain a bit of that form. While his fastball might not be as good as Morales, he makes up for it with a plus slider and changeup, and has done better with the walks this season. This is another candidate to make the rotation later in the season after the dust of the trade deadline is settled. And to finish things off, there are a couple positional players who tore up AAA to pay attention to. Both Colby Thompson and Max Muncy, no relation to, well, Max Muncy, have been destroying AAA this season and could very well have their impact on the Major League roster in 2025. Moving to free agency, there is only one name on the offensive side the Athletics will look to add, and it's Yoan Moncada, formerly of the Chicago White Sox. We all know Moncada's story and how the injury-riddled seasons have left him as a fairly average player after securing the bag from the White Sox. Moncada needs a season to prove he can still be a top player, and the Athletics are in need of a low risk, high reward signing at third base to help fill out this roster. For the Athletics, they get that in Mancada that should be hungry to prove the doubters wrong. However, third base isn't going to fix the Athletics, whose main issue is the team's poor starting pitching. In this rebuild, the Athletics will sign three starting pitchers to rebound this unit, the first of which is Jose Quintana, who continues to put up solid results since his tenure in 2022. In his age 35 season, he has put up 30 plus starts with a high 3 ERA. That would be a welcome addition for the Athletics, who need to headline this rotation. And while it wouldn't be the ace that most teams would look for, it is a welcome addition for the A's. Joining him would be Wade Miley, formerly of the Milwaukee Brewers, who will be making a return from Tommy John surgery in 2025. Miley luckily had his injury soon enough in the year. He should be back for 2025. There really isn't much to add other than this being the definition of a low risk, high reward signing. If Miley can come back healthy, maybe he can yield some good results for a rotation desperately in need of them. And the final player added to the rotation would be Big Maple himself, James Paxton. Paxton has consistently been a mid 4 ERA type pitcher since his missed year in 2022, and with the Athletics, it would give him the opportunity to prove himself with a full season workload. Also, with this group of pitchers, all of them would be available for trade at the deadline, assuming the Athletics are not in a position to make the playoffs. That would provide them with some more prospects that would help further boost this rebuild. And the final signing of the free agency period is Ryan Barucki, who would fill the void of TJ McFarland. Barucki's 2024 has not been good by any standards. However, he really has been struggling with injuries, and the version we saw in 2023 is the version you hope to see with this signing. It gives the A's a second lefty reliever and one that should be affordable with high upside. So that brings your team to Shea Langoliers at catcher, Tyler Soderstrom at first, Zach Geloff at second, Jacob Wilson at short, with Moncada rounding out the infield. Astoria Ruiz in left, JJ Bleday in center, and Lawrence Butler in right, with Brent Rooker at DH. Seth Brown would fill the fourth outfield spot, with Ryan Noda being a key contributor off the bench. Hopefully, he can look more like his 2023 self. Kyle McCann can fill the backup catcher duties, with Max Schumann filling out the final positional player spot. The rotation would consist of Jose Quintana, Wade Miley, James Paxton, JP Sears, and Brody Brasso, who has looked pretty good so far in his rookie year. Is this roster even realistic? No, absolutely not with this ownership. However, I think with these minimalistic signings, it would be enough to make some noise during the regular season and help give some of these younger guys experience in games with meaning. If the season doesn't go well, it gives the team some chips to move on from at the deadline and should allow for some of these upcoming prospects some room to make the MLB roster towards the season end.